In linguistics, an adjective is a describing word, the main syntactic role of which is to qualify a noun or noun phrase, giving more information about the object signified. Adjectives are one of the English parts of speech, although historically they were classed together with their nouns. Certain words that were traditionally considered to be adjectives, including the, this, my, etc., are today usually classed separately, as determiners. Etymology. Adjective comes from Latin adjectivum, additional, a calque of ancient Greek. Pi iota theta epsilon tau omicron mu epitaton, additional. In the grammatical tradition of Latin and Greek, because adjectives were inflected for gender, number, and case like nouns, they were considered a subtype of noun. The words that are today typically called nouns were then called substantive nouns. The terms noun substantive and noun adjective were formerly used in English, until the word noun came to refer only to the former type, and the second type came to be known simply as adjectives. Types of use. A given occurrence of an adjective can generally be classified into one of three kinds of use. Attributive adjectives are part of the noun phrase headed by the noun they modify. For example, happy is an attributive adjective in happy people. In some languages, attributive adjectives precede their nouns. In others, they follow their nouns, and in yet others, it depends on the adjective, or on the exact relationship of the adjective to the noun. In English, attributive adjectives usually precede their nouns in simple phrases, but often follow their nouns when the adjective is modified or qualified by a phrase acting as an adverb. For example, I saw 3 happy kids, and I saw 3 kids happy enough to jump up and down with glee. See also postpositive adjective. Predicative adjectives are linked via a copular or other linking mechanism to the noun or pronoun they modify. For example, happy is a predicate adjective in they are happy, and in that made me happy. Nominal adjectives act almost as nouns. One way this can happen is if a noun is elided and an attributive adjective is left behind. In the sentence, I read 2 books to them. He preferred the sad book, but she preferred the happy. Happy is a nominal adjective, short for happy one, or happy book. Another way this can happen is in phrases like, out with the old, in with the new, where the old means that which is old, or all that is old, and similarly with the new. In such cases, the adjective functions either as a mass noun or as a plural count noun, as in, the meek shall inherit the earth, where the meek means those who are meek, or all who are meek. Distribution. Adjectives feature as a part of speech in most languages. In some languages, the words that serve the semantic function of adjectives may be categorized together with some other class, such as nouns or verbs. For example, rather than an adjective meaning big, a language might have a verb that means to be big, and could then use an attributive verb construction analogous to big being house to express what English expresses as big house. Such an analysis is possible for the grammar of Standard Chinese. For example, different languages do not always use adjectives in exactly the same situations. For example, where English uses to be hungry, Dutch and French use honger hebben and avoir faim respectively. Similarly, where Hebrew uses the adjective zakik, English uses the verb to need. In languages which have adjectives as a word class, they are usually an open class, that is, it is relatively common for new adjectives to be formed via such processes as derivation. However, Bantu languages are well known for having only a small closed class of adjectives, and new adjectives are not easily derived. Similarly, native Japanese adjectives are considered a closed class, although nouns may be used in the genitive to convey some adjectival meanings, and there is also the separate open class of adjectival nouns. Adjectives and adverbs. Many languages, including English, distinguish between adjectives, which qualify nouns and pronouns, and adverbs, which mainly modify verbs. Adjectives, and other adverbs. Not all languages have exactly this distinction, and many languages, including English, have words that can function as both. For example, in English, fast is an adjective in a fast car, but an adverb in he drove fast. In Dutch and German, adjectives and adverbs are usually identical in form, and many grammarians do not make the distinction, but patterns of inflection can suggest a difference. Eine kluge neue Idee, a clever new idea. Eine klug ausgereifte Idee, a cleverly developed idea. A German word like klug takes endings when used as an attributive adjective, but not when used adverbially. Whether these are distinct parts of speech or distinct usages of the same part of speech is a question of analysis. It can be noted that while German linguistic terminology distinguishes adverbial from adjectivische Formen, German refers to both as Eigenschaftswörter, determiners. Linguists today distinguish determiners from adjectives, considering them to be two separate parts of speech. But formerly determiners were considered to be adjectives in some of their uses. In English dictionaries, which typically still do not treat determiners as their own part of speech, determiners are often recognizable by being listed both as adjectives and as pronouns. Determiners are words that are neither nouns nor pronouns, yet reference a thing already in context. Determiners generally do this by indicating definiteness, quantity, or another such property. Adjective phrases. An adjective acts as the head of an adjective phrase or adjectival phrase. In the simplest case, an adjective phrase consists solely of the adjective. More complex adjective phrases may contain one or more adverbs modifying the adjective, or one or more complements. In English, attributive adjective phrases that include complements typically follow the noun that they qualify. Other modifiers of nouns. In many languages, including English, it is possible for nouns to modify other nouns. Unlike adjectives, nouns acting as modifiers usually are not predicative. A beautiful park is beautiful, but a car park is not car. The modifier often indicates origin, purpose, semantic patient or semantic subject. However, it may generally indicate almost any semantic relationship. It is also common for adjectives to be derived from nouns, as in boyish, bird-like, behavioral, famous, manly, angelic, and so on. Many languages have special verbal forms called participles that can act as noun modifiers. Sometimes participles develop into pure adjectives. Examples of this in English include relieved, spoken, and going. Other constructs that often modify nouns include prepositional phrases, relative clauses, and infinitive phrases. Some nouns can also take complements such as content clauses, but these are not commonly considered modifiers. For more information about possible modifiers independent of nouns, see components of noun phrases. Adjective order. In many languages, attributive adjectives usually occur in a specific order. In general, the adjective order in English is determiners, articles, adverbs, and other limiters. Observation, post-determiners and limiter adjectives and adjectives subject to subjective measure, or objects with a value, size and shape. Adjectives subject to objective measure, and physical properties such as speed. Age, adjectives denoting age. Color, adjectives denoting color. Origin, denominal adjectives denoting source of noun. Material, denominal adjectives denoting what something is made of. Qualifier, final limiter, often regarded as part of the noun. This means that in English, adjectives pertaining to size precede adjectives pertaining to age, which in turn generally precede adjectives pertaining to color. So, we would say, one nice little round old white brick house. This order may be more rigid in some languages than others. In some Like Spanish, it may only be a default word order, with other orders being permissible. Due partially to borrowings from French, English has some adjectives that follow the noun as post-modifiers, called post-positive adjectives. As in time immemorial and attorney general, adjectives may even change meaning depending on whether they precede or follow, as in proper. They live in a proper town versus they live in the town proper. All adjectives can follow nouns in certain constructions, such as tell me something new. Comparison of adjectives. In many languages, some adjectives are comparable. For example, a person may be polite, but another person may be more polite, and a third person may be the most polite of the three. The word more here modifies the adjective polite to indicate a comparison is being made, and most modifies the adjective to indicate an absolute comparison. Among languages that allow adjectives to be compared, different means are used to indicate comparison. Some languages do not distinguish between comparative and superlative forms. In English, many adjectives can take the suffixes and est to indicate the comparative and superlative forms, respectively. Great, greater, greatest, deep, deeper, deepest. Some adjectives are irregular in this sense. Good, better, best, bad, worse, worst, many, more, most, little, less, least. Some adjectives can have both regular and irregular variations. Old, older, oldest, far, farther, farthest, also, old, elder, eldest, far, further, furthest. Another way to convey comparison is by incorporating the words more and most. There is no simple rule to decide which means is correct for any given adjective. However, the general tendency is for simpler adjectives, and those from Anglo-Saxon to take the suffixes, while longer adjectives and those from French, Latin, Greek do not, but sometimes sound of the word is the deciding factor. Many adjectives do not naturally lend themselves to comparison. For example, some English speakers would argue that it does not make sense to say that one thing is more ultimate than another, or that something is most ultimate, since the word ultimate is already absolute in its semantics. Such adjectives are called non-comparable or absolute. Nevertheless, native speakers will frequently play with the raised forms of adjectives of this sort. Although pregnant is logically non-comparable, one may hear a sentence like, she looks more and more pregnant each day. Likewise, extinct and equal appear to be non-comparable. But one might say that a language about which nothing is known is more extinct than a well-documented language with surviving literature but no speakers. While George Orwell wrote, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. These cases may be viewed as evidence that the base forms of these adjectives are not as absolute in their semantics as is usually thought. Comparative and superlative forms are also occasionally used for other purposes than comparison. In English, comparatives can be used to suggest that a statement is only tentative or tendential. One might say, John is more the shy and retiring type, where the comparative more is not really comparing him with other people or with other impressions of him, but rather could be substituting for, on the whole. In Italian, superlatives are frequently used to put strong emphasis on an adjective. Bellissimo means most beautiful, but is in fact more commonly heard in the sense extremely beautiful. Restrictiveness. Attributive adjectives, and other noun modifiers, may be used either restrictively or non-restrictively. For example, he was a lazy sort who would avoid a difficult task and fill his working hours with easy ones. Difficult is restrictive. It tells us which tasks he avoids, distinguishing these from the easy ones. Only those tasks that are difficult. She had the job of sorting out the mess left by her predecessor, and she performed this difficult task with great acumen. Difficult is non-restrictive. We already know which task it was, but the adjective describes it more fully. The aforementioned task, which is difficult in some languages, such as Spanish, restrictiveness is consistently marked. For example, in Spanish, la tarea difícil means the difficult task, in the sense of the task that is difficult, whereas la difícil tarea means the difficult task, in the sense of the task, which is difficult. In English, restrictiveness is not marked on adjectives, but is marked on relative clauses. Agreement. In some languages, adjectives alter their form to reflect the gender, case and number of the noun that they describe. This is called agreement or concord. Usually it takes the form of inflections at the end of the word, as in Latin. In the Celtic languages, however, initial consonant lenition marks the adjective with a feminine singular noun, as in Irish. Often a distinction is made here between attributive and predicative usage, whereas English is an example of a language in which adjectives never agree and French of a language in which they always agree. In German they agree only when used attributively, and in Hungarian only when used predicatively. Bibliography. Dixon, M.W. Where Have All the Adjectives Gone? Studies in Language 1. 19-80. DOI 10.1075 SL 1.1.04 DIX. Dixon, M.W. R. E. Asher. The Encyclopedia of Language and Linguistics. Pergamon Press Inc. pp. 29-35. ISBN 0-08-035943-4. Dixon, M.W. Adjectives. In K. Brown and T. Miller. Concise Encyclopedia of Grammatical Categories. Amsterdam. Elsevier. ISBN 0-08-043164-X. Warren, Beatrice. Classifying Adjectives. Gothenburg Studies in English. Göteborg. Acta Universitatis Gothoburgensis. ISBN 91-7346-133-4. Wiertzbicker, Anna. What's in a Noun? Studies in Language 10. 353-389. DOI 10.1075 SL 10.2.05 WIE.